I stood in front of 200 people in my wedding dress and watched my mother-in-law raise a glass. She wore white. She called me a placeholder. And then I played the video. After that, nobody clapped. I didn't expect much from my wedding. Just a quiet day, clean flowers, decent music. My dress was simple, ivory silk, no lace, no glitter. I paid for it myself. I wasn't the type of girl people celebrated. Not in my family. I was the quiet one. The one who works too much or doesn't know how to have fun. That's what my mother-in-law said the first time she met me. She smiled when she said it, like she thought it was funny. My name is Lena. I'm 28. I work in product logistics. Nothing exciting. I schedule shipping routes and inventory for a mid-sized tech warehouse. It's not glamorous, but I like systems. I like rules. They make sense. I met Jacob 2 years ago. He was kind, not flashy. He helped his neighbors shovel snow, remembered my coffee order, always replied to texts. I wasn't used to being noticed like that, so I said yes when he proposed. We planned the wedding in 6 months. He wanted a small backyard ceremony. His mom insisted on something more elegant. We settled on a rented garden space. She offered to pay the deposit. I should have said no. Jacob's family was different from mine. Loud, handsy. Always commenting on your clothes, your weight, your job. But with smiles. Like it was sweet. Like it was love. I thought they just didn't know any better. I was wrong. The first red flag came at the bridal shower. His mom, Marlene, showed up an hour late, wearing a tight cream cocktail dress and stilettos. I was in jeans and a cardigan. She hugged me with one arm and said, "You look so cozy, like a babysitter." Everyone laughed. I didn't. She gave me a gift, a gym membership, with a note that said, "So you'll look amazing in the dress." I smiled. I said thank you. I placed it under the table. Then I drove home and cried in the shower. Jacob said she didn't mean it like that. "She's just a little over the top," he said. The second red flag came 2 weeks before the wedding. We were finalizing the guest list. I had 22 people. He had 67. I offered to pay for half. Marlene said, "Oh, honey, you're marrying into the big leagues now. That's what families are for." I nodded. I didn't reply. I didn't invite my father. He hadn't called in 3 years. My mom couldn't come. She was recovering from knee surgery and hated crowds. My brother texted me, "Sounds boring, I'll pass." So I walked into that wedding almost alone. The morning of, I woke up at 6 a.m. I did my own makeup. I packed a Tide pen, Advil, bobby pins, and double-sided tape in a clear pouch. I'd read every bridal forum. I knew what to expect. But I didn't expect her. Marlene arrived 20 minutes before the ceremony. Her driver pulled up in a black SUV. The door opened, and she stepped out, wearing white. Not ivory, not cream, not champagne. White, full-length satin, strapless, beaded neckline, hair in an updo, diamond drop earrings. She looked like she was walking into the Oscars. Someone gasped. I heard it. I was holding my bouquet, standing near the aisle entrance. She walked up to me, smiled wide, and said, "Oh, look, we match." I blinked. I said nothing. One of the bridesmaids asked if she wanted to change. She laughed, loud. "Why would I? This is my big day too. I'm giving away my only son." The ceremony started 15 minutes late. She took her seat in the front row. Everyone was staring. The photographer kept glancing at me, waiting, watching. I kept smiling. During the vows, Marlene sniffled, loudly, then dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed napkin. When the officiant said, "Speak now or forever, hold your peace," she made a choking noise. Someone behind her said, "Jesus, Carol." The reception was worse. She took over the mic, said she wanted to make a toast. Jacob looked confused. I just sat there. She started with a joke about Jacob wetting the bed until he was 9, then called him her little man, said he was too good for just anyone, and how a mother knows when something's not quite right. Then she looked at me, dead in the eyes, and said, "But we can't choose who our children love. We just have to pray." The room went still. Someone coughed. I felt my hands go numb. She raised her glass. "To love." Nobody toasted. I stood up. I walked to the mic, and I said, "Thank you, Marlene." Then I turned to the DJ. "Can you play the video now?" He nodded. The screen behind us lit up. I had emailed him a file last week. I didn't plan to use it. I thought maybe, someday, I'd need it. Now was the time. The screen flickered. Then it started. Security footage. Date stamped 2 weeks ago. A boutique bridal store downtown, Marlene, standing at the counter. The employee. "Ma'am, we usually don't sell white gowns to mothers of the groom." Marlene. "It's fine. I'm not just his mother. I raised him. She just met him 2 years ago." Pause. The employee. "Still, some guests might be confused." Marlene. "She's lucky to even be invited." Laughter. Then another clip. A phone recording. Jacob's cousin had sent it. Marlene. "The dress is a joke. She has no taste. Looks like a secretary at prom." Another one. "She's trying to act classy. We all know she's a social climber." Last one. "I give it 2 years. He'll come home crying." Then silence. The screen faded to black. I turned off the mic, walked back to my seat, poured myself a glass of wine. Jacob was pale. Marlene stood frozen, like a statue, hands shaking. Then someone clapped, just one, then another and another, until half the room was applauding. I didn't smile. I just sipped my wine and said nothing. Marlene didn't make another speech. She left early, didn't say goodbye. I never saw her again after that night. But that wasn't the end, not even close. 3 days after the wedding, Jacob came home late. He didn't say much, just walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared into it like it held answers. I was sitting at the table, sorting thank you cards. One for his aunt who gifted us towels. One for my coworker who Venmo'd me $40 with the note for a honeymoon margarita. That was all I got from my side. Jacob leaned on the counter, said nothing for a while. Then finally, "She's embarrassed." I didn't look up. I just asked, "Of what?" He said, "How it all played out. She says she didn't know anyone was recording." That made me laugh, quietly. No sound, just air. He kept going. "She thinks you planned it, that you wanted to humiliate her." I nodded. "I didn't plan it. She gave me all the footage herself, with her actions." He didn't reply. The silence hung like smoke in the kitchen. Then he said, "She wants an apology." I looked at him for the first time and said, "So do I." That night, he slept on the couch. He said he needed space to think. I let him. I spent the next morning cleaning, vacuuming rice out of the carpet, removing leftover roses from centerpieces. I saved one bouquet, dried it in the laundry room. The petals turned brown in 2 days. By Friday, his sister had posted about it. A caption on Instagram. "Some people will do anything for attention, even humiliate their own family." Over a selfie of her and Marlene sipping wine in what looked like a resort lounge. The comments were predictable. "Estimate some brides are so toxic. Tell your mom she's a queen." "Not the Miles slander again." I didn't reply. I deleted the app. The messages came anyway. One from Jacob's cousin. "Girl, that was savage. I wouldn't have had the guts." One from a bridesmaid. "I don't think you did anything wrong, but maybe you could have handled it more gracefully." One from Marlene. It was only 2 words. "You'll pay?" I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I was scared, but because I wasn't. A week passed, then 2. Jacob barely spoke. He came home late, left early, said he had work, said nothing at dinner, ate quickly. Dishes clattered louder than usual. Then one night, he didn't come home at all. I called once, straight to voicemail. I didn't call again. At 4:12 a.m., he texted, "Staying at mom's, need time." I stared at those words, then typed back, "Take all the time you want." He didn't reply. I didn't cry. I folded his shirts into a suitcase, left it by the front door. He came back 3 days later, didn't say a word, just picked up the suitcase and left. I stood at the window, watched the taillights disappear down the street. Then I went to work. There was a meeting at 9, new logistics software. My boss asked if I was okay. I said I was. I even smiled. 2 months went by, no word from Jacob, no apology, no explanation. But the rumors started. People whispering at work. My coworker Jennifer said she saw Jacob with a woman at a restaurant. Blonde, laughing, touching his arm. His mother was there too. Of course, I didn't confront him. I just filed the divorce papers the next day. Served to his mother's house. He didn't contest. Didn't even show up. I signed alone in a quiet office, wearing the same black turtleneck I wore to my last performance review. The lawyer looked at me and said, "You sure you want this?" I nodded. That was it. 12 weeks married. Done. I didn't keep the photos. I deleted the shared folder, returned the dress to a donation center. They said they'd repurpose it for terminal patients who wanted to have a symbolic wedding before passing. That felt right. My phone was quiet for a while after that, until one day it wasn't. An email from a media outlet. Apparently someone had posted the wedding video, the full clip. It was gaining views, fast. They wanted my side. I didn't reply. Then another outlet messaged me. Then 3 more. Someone started a Reddit thread. It went viral. People calling Marlene the worst MIL of the decade. Others asking if it was staged. Then came the TikTok edits. Clips of her speech over dramatic piano music. Reaction videos. People wearing fake veils and acting out my silence with captions like, "When you let karma do the talking." I didn't post, I didn't comment, but quietly. Something started to shift. A small home decor brand messaged me. Said they loved my aesthetic, asked if I'd like to partner on a collection. I'd always posted photos of my space before. Clean lines, muted colors, thrifted finds. I said yes. Then a logistics podcast I'd once commented on asked if I wanted to be a guest. They'd seen my name in the news, thought it was cool how I handled the situation. Said I came off precise. I liked that. I said yes again. By spring, I had 3 passive income streams, affiliate links, guest lectures, interior consults, nothing big, but enough to move. I left the city, got a small place in a coastal town, 1 bedroom, exposed beams, a porch that creaks when it rains. Perfect. No one knew me there. No one asked questions. I changed my number. Blocked Jacob, blocked Marlene, blocked everyone with their last name. Silence, peace. Sometimes I sit on the porch at night with a blanket and tea and wonder if they talk about me now. If they bring up my name at family dinners. If Marlene still wears white to weddings. I wonder what Jacob tells people. That I was cold, that I overreacted, that I embarrassed his mother. Maybe. But none of it matters anymore. I didn't fight back. I didn't scream. I just walked away. And quietly built a new life. That was the last anyone heard of me until she showed up again. Not in person, in pixels, on my screen. Her face, her voice, softer now, older. And the words she said were different. But they weren't different because she meant them. They were different because she had no choice. It started with a DM from a shared account. "Hi, Lena, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Marlene's niece. I work in social media PR now. We're reaching out to see if you'd consider removing the wedding video." I read it 3 times, then once more. She didn't say sorry. She didn't even say it was her fault. Just, "We're reaching out to see if you'd consider." I didn't answer. I watched the video again, the one someone else uploaded, the one with 4.8 million views. I watched her frozen face, her shaking hands, the silence after her speech. I remembered how it felt to be laughed at in front of everyone. While she raised a glass to the failure she thought I was, I closed the browser, made tea, didn't reply. The next day, I got an email from a woman named Diane. She said she was Marlene's crisis manager. I laughed, not out loud, just in my throat. She said the video had affected Marlene's charity prospects, that potential partners were hesitant to align with a brand perceived as toxic. She said it was a misunderstanding, and Marlene wanted to tell her truth. She included a Zoom link. I didn't click it. I forwarded it to my spam folder. Then 2 weeks later, a package came. No return address. Inside, a white envelope, heavy cardstock. The paper smelled like lilacs. There was a handwritten note. "Lena, I never meant to hurt you. I'm sorry if you felt disrespected. This family has been through a lot, and I was trying to protect Jacob. But maybe I went too far. I miss him. He misses you. We all miss what we could have had. Please, let's talk. Marlene. I folded the note in half, then in half again, until it was a square, small enough to fit into the trash bin. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just made lunch. It wasn't until a month later that I saw her face again. Someone tagged me in a link. YouTube, Marlene Hart. The truth about the wedding video. The thumbnail showed her in a cream blouse, tasteful makeup, glass of water beside her. The title said my side of the story. The comments were off. I watched the first 10 seconds. She smiled at the camera. Then she said, "There's always two sides." I closed the tab. She could tell her side to her mirror. I had things to do. My podcast episode had just gone live, a short one. Logistics Trends for 2025. I recorded it in one take. No script, just facts, calm, efficient. The comments were kind. A girl from Ohio said I made her want to switch careers. A woman from Belgium said she listened to me while making dinner and that I sounded like peace. That was enough. That was everything. Still, the emails kept coming from her assistant, from her niece, from a random man who said he was a family friend and wanted to mediate. They offered me $2,000 to take the video down, then $10,000, then $25,000. I said nothing. Then I got a different kind of message. It was from a lawyer. The subject line, cease and desist, defamation. They claimed the video harmed her public image, that it had been maliciously distributed with the intent to destroy her character. They said I had 30 days to remove it or face legal action. I called my lawyer. He laughed. Then he said, "We'll respond." But don't worry, she has no case. That was the end of that, until it wasn't, because the attention didn't go away. The video kept resurfacing. Every wedding season, it came back. A new edit, a new voiceover. People reacting to her face when I played the footage. I wasn't even in most of the clips, just her, and that was the part that made it perfect, because I never shouted, never clapped back, never posted a single word. I just smiled, left, and moved on. She stayed behind, digging, clawing, trying to rewrite the past. But it was already printed, time-stamped, archived. One day I was in a cafe, waiting for my chai latte, when a young woman walked up to me, maybe 24, curly hair, denim jacket. She said, "Sorry, this is weird, but were you the bride from the video?" I looked at her, paused, then said, "Yes." She smiled, big. "I just wanted to say thank you. That video helped me leave a bad engagement. I thought I was crazy. Watching you, not explode, just leave, that gave me permission." I nodded, said nothing. She said, "Anyway, just wanted to say that. You were iconic." Then she walked away. I stood there, let the words settle. Iconic. I had never been called that before, not at school, not at work, not in my family, certainly not by Marlene. I wasn't loud, wasn't flashy, wasn't the favorite. I just did what I always did. Stayed calm, did the work, took the hit, then disappeared. But now people saw me, not because I shouted, not because I begged, because I kept my dignity when someone tried to take it away. That's when I knew this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about truth. And the truth always finds its way, even through silence, even through cold smiles and quiet exits. That video didn't destroy her. She did. I just pressed play. And now they were the ones hiding. Now they were the ones whispering at dinner. Now they were the ones watching me, from the sidelines, from fake accounts, from far away. And me, I was just living. Not loudly, not desperately, just living. But I didn't tell anyone what came next. Not the girl in the cafe, not my lawyer, not even my reflection. Because it wasn't something I planned. It just happened. It started with an email from an old colleague, one I hadn't spoken to since before the wedding, before all of this. She said there was an opening, a logistics firm in Berlin. They needed a remote consultant. Said she remembered how clean my reports were, how calm I was during crisis calls. Said I'd be perfect. I took the call, and 2 weeks later, I signed the contract. The pay was double. There was a relocation option. But I stayed in the coastal town. I like the quiet. The creaky porch, the way the waves sounded like breathing at night. Sometimes I'd think about my old life, the white dress, the speeches, the silence after. I never watched the video again. Didn't need to, it was already burned into me. Every smirk, every fake laugh. Every time I sat there, waiting to be acknowledged, and watched her ignore me with a smile that said, "You'll never be enough." But I was. And she knew it now. She knew it every time she Googled her name and saw that video pop up. Every time someone said, "Oh, you're that mother-in-law." Every time her charity image came second to her wedding disaster. That wasn't my revenge. It was just the truth. And the truth, once seen, doesn't go away. A year passed, quietly. I didn't date, didn't party, didn't make a statement. I just lived. I worked, saved money, painted my hallway, tried new soups. One day, I adopted a cat. He was gray and half blind. I named him Miles. He followed me from room to room like he didn't trust silence, but I did. Then, 2 weeks before the 1-year mark of the wedding, I got another letter. This time handwritten. No lawyer, no niece, just ink and paper. The envelope was pale pink. The writing, shaky. It was from Marlene. Not typed, not stamped, not filtered through anyone. Just her. The note was short. Only 3 lines. "Lena, I watched the video again. All of it. This time without denial. You were right to walk away. No apology, not really. But something inside it felt different, like maybe for the first time. She saw herself the way the rest of the world did, and it hurt." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because I wasn't the one looking for peace anymore. I had mine. It lived in the quiet of my walls, in the sound of Miles snoring at my feet, in the calm rhythm of work and sleep and sun on my face in the morning. I didn't need her words, or Jacob's, or anyone else's. I'd already left the house, the marriage, the war, and walked into something better. No one clapped, no dramatic montage, just a new page, and I never spoke of it again. Until this, because people ask, not directly, but they do. They ask why I don't talk about him, why there's no pictures on my shelves, why I keep my ring in a box labeled old keys. Sometimes they even ask how I stayed so calm, and I tell them the truth. It wasn't strength, it wasn't planning, it was survival. You learn when you grow up being the quiet one, the overlooked one. That silence is armor, that calm is protection, and that sometimes the loudest thing you can do is walk away. Without a sound. I didn't scream. I didn't post paragraphs. I just pressed play, watched her unravel, and moved on. They told me I'd never be enough. Too quiet, too plain, too soft. But softness is not weakness, and silence is not surrender. Sometimes, it's the only thing that keeps you whole. So when people ask if I regret it, if I wish I'd fought louder, harder, meaner, I say no. I just smile, because somewhere out there, a woman who wore white to someone else's wedding, who gave a speech meant to destroy, is still trying to clean the stain from her image. And me, I'm just sitting here, on a porch that creaks, drinking tea, with Miles in my lap, unbothered, unapologetic, uninvited, but unbreakable. And the thing is, they thought they kicked me out, but really, I left, and I never looked back. But I hear they still talk about me,